third and maybe the final panelist session of this conference, because after that there is only panel discussion wrap-up session. So with the permission of Honorable Election Commission A.K. Jyoti Saab, I will start this session. Let me brief you first as to what is in our mind at ECI. I must really appreciate this three-member commission for their progressive thought, for their proactive planning, at the same time staying on ground and not forgetting the reality. And the time that this commission takes to take decision is so commendable. Looking at all facts, they come to one conclusion and take a decision. That is really, I must personally salute the commission for this particular feature that the commission has. Almost 1.5 years before, there was some discussion going on based on some court case going on with service electors. And in that connection, commission asked me, is there any possibility of vote through electronic media? I told them that yes sir, there are some possibilities, we can go ahead with that. And immediately they took some action on that, they started. And today we are at a stage where we are discussing commission's feature. Another feature is the transparency, even what they think and how they plan, that also is transparent. And that's why this particular conference with the intelligent technologist industry and other management body members. It was found that we have 4 different categories of voters, as has been pointed out very clearly. NRI, service voter, general voter, and one class we can work out onto migrant voters. NRIs particularly, they always face a problem because they have to come to polling station to cast their vote and they are demanding that it should be there. On one side, we are talking about complexity of this process, technical threats, implementation aspects, different issues and problems. But many a times innovations, they do happen because there is a dire requirement coming up. NRIs definitely need this kind of a solution. Service voters need this kind of a solution. Migrant voters, they need such kind of a solution. And definitely those who are elder and those who are differently abled people, they need this kind of a solution. So basically it is a need what is being thought of. And for that, Commission has identified one committee to look at technological aspects. Commission has identified one more committee which is working on changes to be brought in law and legislative forms. Committee has been framed for looking out onto implementation aspect and rolling out of this particular part, how we can go ahead, so that we can have a strict time plan, road map ahead of us, and we will be in a position to go ahead in that line. With this particular process, Commission also is clear that end-to-end verifiability, as Professor Purvi comments upon, is very much necessary. But at the same time, verifiability itself needs to be defined in a very clear term. What are we verifying? And who is verifying that? As on today, if somebody votes in EVM, the voter cannot check later on. As on today, any person sending a postal ballot back to the counting center doesn't have any provision to verify whether vote has been really counted there at that particular location. So verifiability to be provided onto internet, because internet can do that, because technology can provide that solution, is slightly a point which we may take later on, slightly later part. But the theme is, let the best be not enemy of the good. And we need to start somewhere, and with that thought process, this particular technical discussions have been organized, followed by, we will have some more discussions at management bodies also world over, and then probably commission will come out with some particular formulation, and that we are going to do it very soon. With this particular thought in mind, let me begin my session, and let me quickly start the presentations from various dignitaries on dais with me. In our first session yesterday, we deliberated upon identification of issues and challenges. In session second, after welcome session, we had a very hardcore technical discussions, and we heard big expert, good expert, those who have worked for 15-20 years in this line, we heard them. In our third session, Dr. Muna chaired, and he brought in some reality experimentation done in state of Gujarat, and he also brought in one company providing this solution, that is a Cycle Technology. And then today morning we heard how the platform is ready, what is the readiness of platform in India for launching, for starting internet voting or R-voting. We heard Aadhaar saying that they are very much ready, and we saw last line of the presentation saying that just go ahead, we are ready. We heard NIC telling us that cloud technologies and security aspects are very well in picture, that is the need, so we are also ready to go ahead with that. With NVSP project undertaken by Commission, being implemented by CDAC, we have now covered a centralized database of our electoral roll, and under a mission program of purification and authentication, we are cleaning up that particular database. So one side database is perfectly ready, another side our technical partners like NIC, BSNL and all, they are ready. On backend side, Aadhaar is ready, and there are some vendors like CDN providers, those who can take care of variety of things. So this gives me a very good picture, very good scenario, that this is a right time when we can conclude and take some particular decision. So let me start with the presentation from Dr. Sharat Chandra Babu, who is Executive Director at CDAC Bangalore, to present. I think I will skip the introduction for the paucity of time. All people sitting on the dais are very well known. They all are Googleable, so Google can tell you about them very easily. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Election Commissioner and dignitaries and delegates. Endaro Mahanubhavulu, Andariki Vandanam. So it's a great opportunity for us to give some thought process, especially when you have gone through so many sessions. I think I just happened to come at 12 o'clock and see that the talks that were given from Aadhaar and other two gentlemen from DSA and all that, when I saw that, and also heard to what Mr. Shukla just now gave a glimpse of what happened yesterday, I feel that okay, whatever I planned to cover, it's already thoroughly covered, but just I would probably somewhere I touch upon something new, I am not sure, but we'll go ahead on that. So just quote, the fundamental challenge in public voting is how to reconcile the conflict between demonstrable integrity and ballot privacy, quote. This I'll skip the agenda. I think today's need, we all know, most of us must have discussed the modernizing the election process and user friendliness, simple to operate, preserves voting secrecy, and no scope for invalid votes. That is one important aspect. Facilitates quick and accurate counting, lowers operating costs for a period of time. Provision can be made to connect to a central station. That is the, as of now, the ballots would go, even the EVMs would go to the counting stations and all that. There is a delay. And here, because if you make it electronically, there is a possibility that the time could be saved quite a bit and the results could be announced faster. So this is a kind of a basic architecture where, right from assuming that the voters have the flexibility to vote, though Shuklaji has clearly told stepwise moving ahead is just assuming that the voters have the flexibility of voting at their homes or kiosks or at any point of location. And we have the voting systems, and we have finally the databases, and then finally the election management console and so on. So these are all the requirements. I think I would not like to repeat the, basically everyone touched upon these things. Eligible voters, anonymity has to be maintained, and verifiability, fairness, and so on and so forth. You see, I think the speakers are here who have implemented some of the remote voting. So here is just to give you a glimpse of what's happening world over. And there are quite successful stories. There are certain places where they had to go back onto manual voting. All factors, mainly the technology side, security is one thing found as a lacking, supporting the overall requirement. And Indian scenario, one of the key things, though we are all aware, I think we had a good talk from other Pramod as well, is a very significant thing. Having Aadhaar identity is going to be a significant thing. And if you are looking at anywhere, anytime, any device kind of a thing, and mobile penetration to the extent of 80 crores number, and the 80 crores plus other ID provisions, and also the infrastructural facilities like national optical fiber communication and other aspects, and Digital India now is going to be setting the future trends. And today and tomorrow, I think we are actually galloping towards having all digital solutions. Then why not in voting, which is an important aspect of a citizen of India, and it is going to help, if it is going to help in improving the process, efficiency, speed at which we work, and remove most of the worries that we have mundane tasks. So if it is going to happen, why not? Why not we plan? I think that is the idea. It's a kind of glorifying thought by Election Commission of India to have this kind of a workshop and collect ideas from various experts, international as well as national experts, and that's really a great thing. I think core of the need of the hour is to have a policy. That is where Election Commission of India is working on, and political willpower, and then technical capabilities as well as technical solutions readiness for us, and at the same time citizens awareness, creating the culture of using the aspect. One of the aspects I feel is once the e-voting comes, I mean the remote voting happens, when we are talking about remote voting for the people like NRIs and the people who are on election duty, people who are in border, that kind of an aspect, if we are looking at a common man also is going to, even a illiterate person also can vote because everyone is having a mobile. If that stage comes, that culture, creation of an awareness is going to be a major task. So now, when you talk about the basic architecture of the e-voting or I mean internet voting, we have seen that there is a end system. It could be a mobile or a desktop computer or a kiosk or a tablet, whatever it is. And then there are servers at various stages. And then we have the connections. So three aspects would come. End to end, you need to look at I'm just focusing mostly on the possible security issues. So we need to have the, we always talk about end system security, and every end system is vulnerable to malwares. Once you are getting connected to the internet, you do not know. They are always, you have new operating systems with proper patches, everything, and you will have over the network, the firewalls, and over and above you will have intrusion detection and prevention systems, and in a network enterprise level or the client level antivirus systems. So with all these things, we also look at web application, if it is there, web application security, because everything has to be, front ending will be a web client, so obviously browsers should be protected. So the various levels you need to secure. So the defense in depth is going to be the important aspect. We will talk about OSI 7 layers or TCP IP 5 layers or whatever, that every layer right from the, or you talk about the client and server and connectivity. So these are the issues where we need to look at the security end to end. So whether we can do end-to-end verifiable election or not, but end-to-end security is an important aspect of this system. So the client side, we have the no foolproof test to find malicious payload, and we do not know, even if I have an end system, if somebody brings an USB and uses, through USB also a malware can enter. So how do you take care of the end systems? So there is a possibility of buffer overflow attacks and activates controls. Remote control of client computers can happen. Triggering malicious software in scheduled manner can happen. So proxy redirect, authentication threats, in mobile phones if they are there, a limited display area and prohibitive costs. So all those aspects we have to be considered. Distributed denial of service, I think it is quite number of people talked about. So it is flooding that happens for the network, overload of servers, and the effects is servers may cut off from the internet, and the availability becomes an issue. So as we talk about confidentiality, integrity, availability, one of the major worries in this kind of scenario is the denial of service, especially when you have more structured way of distributed denial of service, it's going to be a pain. And most of the time you find most non-conventional solutions for the DDoS attacks of providing different time slots and announcing the IP addresses just in time. So there are so many unconventional techniques than the conventional techniques. So no effective protective mechanisms, and voting machines should locally store the vote and sync later. So then you have the connection related. Connection, mostly if you look at the infrastructure, DNS is becoming a very important critical infrastructure of an internet, but it is the DNS as such doesn't have the security as a important security as a focus, and so later the ICANN has come out with the DNSSEC, so DNS security extensions, and most of the DNS servers at various levels, they don't have the DNSSEC, but it's an important area, and CDAC has actually establishing along with ICANN and Indian Institute of Science a DNS Center of Center of Excellence for DNS Security, with an objective to create awareness among organizations, system administrators, auditors, auditees, registries, and various people to look at how to take care of the DNS. And in this entire remote voting system, when you are using internet, the important aspect is to make sure that the infrastructure is protected, because the DNS attacks are normally two types. One is the denial of service attack, and the other one is the DNS cache poisoning. So their redirections would happen. So the man in the middle kind of attacks would happen. So actually somebody would behave as though is the right server, and they try to give replay attacks and so on. So there are so many ways people can disturb, and anything that disturbance happens in a DNS server, it is going to have major impact. So that is in the entire system, DNS security becomes an important aspect. So this is just the DNS resolution process. I think we are all aware how the mapping happens from the client to the DNS final server, how it happens through the DNS server. It's a hierarchy of servers, right from the root server to the domain server to finally the organization server. There is a trust system built for all these layers. So the DNSSEC I was mentioning, this is recently introduced and people started using it, and it requires a lot of creation of awareness and proliferation in various organizations. So it becomes, as a country, also it becomes an important aspect to introduce DNSSEC or any other security mechanism. But DNSSEC is become most popular. So trust of sign, so the trust, as I told you, happens in a hierarchical trust in DNS, so that has to be taken care. This is what is explained here. So the root DNS key will be there, and then it will trust .in, and then it will come to the CDAC. So the trust is in the hierarchical here. So the various security solutions for, as I told you, difference in depth, right from the end system to the server to the connection, we need to have a number of security solutions. I just wanted to say that CDAC has been working over the last decade. A number of indigenous solutions were developed. Important aspect here is because the our voting concerns to the India's internal security, indigenous solutions are important. Right from, even if somebody says that an IDEA algorithm or AES algorithm, they are available and I will use it, how much these algorithms are clearly code walkthrough was done, they would not do anything other than what it is supposed to do. It only does the encryption the way it was supposed to do, or the decryption it does the same way. So all these algorithms have to be actually verified, thoroughly tested, and so such a library is being maintained by CDAC with all kinds of symmetric as well as asymmetric algorithms for encryption, decryption are made available as part of the cryptography labs. And we have the endpoint security, right from zero-day attacks of malware prevention using tools like Malware Nivarak of CDAC, and end system security, browser JS guards, application and device control, and mobile security through using a device called as mKavach. They all take care of end system security. So we have some of the solutions that are developed and which are available. Some of them can be even downloaded freely, like USB Patrol and mKavach mobile security. They are easily downloadable. And we have the malware network and gateway security, guard your network, that is the IDS and IPS solution at a high speed traffic generation. So at that point of time, we can use IDS, IPS. Also, we have dynamic firewalls, the firewalls which will generate the rules on the fly and try to improve based on the anomalies or behavioral changes that they observe during the course of time. So the web security applications are available, and number of authentication systems and biometrics, that expertise is also built in. And we have, importantly, cyber forensics, all forensics tools, right from the hard disk drive to mobile device to any other things to do the forensics analysis we have set up. And in fact, the cyber police in various states, their labs are getting established through CDAC. So if you name anything, a particular level, the network security or end system security or the mobile security, or talk about the gateway level security or the crypto analysis, the cryptography systems and cyber forensics. So we have number of solutions. I feel though a lot of efforts are happening in R&D, one of the key things CDAC should focus is to make it more productized and continually support these systems through the support. I feel all these solutions would come in handy when we implement this internet voting or remote voting based at various layers of security. And also we have, for the e-governance services, we have created multi-factor authentication, 4 levels: UID, password, OTP, and digital signature certificates and biometrics. So this is another solution which would be directly useful for our our voting purposes. This is just a idea of DNS Center of Excellence for DNS Security. We're establishing along with ICANN and IISc. The objective is to develop some solutions to secure DNS. In addition to that, to provide services as well as create awareness amongst the various stakeholders of the DNS, whoever man the DNS servers. So a lot of activities happens through CDAC, though it's an opportunity for me to say that, as I was indicating in the beginning, the awareness creation becomes an important thing. On digital signatures and PKI, through the Controller of Certifying Authority of Government of India, CDAC has been doing continually organizing one-day awareness programs and two-day developers programs in the area of digital signatures and PKI with Digital India and eSign and the digital locker kind of things. This becomes an important thing for the people to get more and more awareness. For a common man to actually safely use internet, we have a program called as InfoSec Education and Awareness Program, where we maintain infosec.in as a web portal. Actually, through that, we conduct number of programs to not only the IT savvy guys, but non-IT people, housewives, school children, to NGOs, government organizations. We continually, through all CDAC centers, organize a number of awareness programs to indicate how safely people can use internet, right from using the strong passwords to why one should not download from or open the emails from unknown people to many things. So the way forward, we look at CDAC has number of solutions. It has the capability to work on various training systems. So there are a number of products and solutions. They have capability around 150 to 200 people across 5 CDAC centers are working closely in cyber security area, right from the simple, right from end system security solutions to the high-end systems to steganographic analysis to honeynet distribution kind of systems to learn more and work towards security. I feel CDAC can play a major role in this aspect of internet voting. I now request my friend Hari Babu to give few thoughts on the cryptography area, what we are working, and probably he would like to do something. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, a lot of presentations were prepared, but while sitting at here since yesterday morning, most of them, whatever I have prepared, has been covered. So finally, I left out with 4 or 5, which is like I think Estonia being the successful model for internet voting. It's better to look at how they have been implemented this internet voting and see whether we can take some ideas from their implementation. So the basic architecture of Estonia's model is basically their main strength is in their identity cards, which are basically smart cards. Their identity cards are being used for different transactions like banking, even for governance transactions, plus voting. It's a smart ID card consisting of 2 pairs of public, basically RSA keys, and then it comes with a certification for the public key that they use. So the ID card is mandatory for because wherever people opt for the internet voting, those systems should have the facility to basically read the insert this ID card, smart ID card they have, and then if people wants to opt using mobile devices, they will be provided with a specific SIM, a separate SIM, which once again contains these information like 2 sets of public keys and the certificate. So once election process starts like this, election process they announce, once the election commission announces the election process, then before 2 weeks of the election date, they release the client applications for different devices, different operating systems. So these client applications basically contains the executable which you can download and run on your device. It comes with additional 2 types of keys. One is like the server certificate for authentication inbuilt and the public key of the election. So the process starts like this. So once you load the client application on your device, You have the server certification as well as the public key of the election inherently come to your device. So the actual voting process starts on a voting day. On any mission, like the voter who wants to vote will insert his card. I am taking an example of desktop-based voting. So once he inserts, the vote casting process involves initial authentication of the voter on server, like it's a mutual authentication, where voter basically signs. He has two keys, one for authentication, one for signature. So he basically uses authentication key and sends the certificate to the server for authentication. Server decrypts it and authenticates the voter. Once there are actually three servers being used in the Estonia voting system. One is basically vote forwarding server, which is the only server connected to the internet. Then they have vote storage server and a data log server plus tallying server. There are total four systems at server side. So out of four, only vote forwarding server is connected to the internet, and which is the one which authenticates the voter initially. So once the authentication has been completed and he has been identified with the who are all the candidates that's been contesting in his area. So the capital C represents the list of candidates that electorate will have. Once he receives this, the voter actually can select one candidate which he wants to vote. Then he actually here he uses RSA with additional padding. So he generates a random padding and he encrypts that particular vote with the election public key here. That is called, I represent with small b here. Then he signs that vote using the private key as for signature, and both of them we transmit to the vote forwarding server. Upon receipt of this, the vote forwarding server will give a number, a unique number for that particular vote being casted by this voter, which actually received by the voter. X and R forms the QR code for a particular vote. So why he receives that is like if a voter wants to verify whether the vote that he has casted is valid. So after half an hour of the within that half an hour period of the time after his vote has been casted, he can verify that to which candidate he has been voted. The verification process looks like this. So the verification has to happen through a smart mobile which supports QR codes. So he scans the QR code and he retrieves X, he transmits it to the vote forwarding server. So he receives corresponding B related to the X. B is basically the encrypted version of his vote for the candidate selection. Then the vote forwarding server once again will send the encrypted version of his vote plus the complete list of candidates that's been contesting in the elections. Once the application receives, he can because he has got the complete list of candidates, he can encrypt and see. Once it matches the encrypted data with B that he has received, he will verify that the vote has been casted has been properly indicated. If not, he can vote once again. So in the Estonia, they have opened for a period of 7 days, and multiple times voting is possible, where the last vote will be considered as the valid vote in this case. That is basically for a reason of to avoid coercion in the election. And then the tallying process, once election has been completed, all the vote forwarding server has got one more role of basically checking the eligibility of the voter, and then they come to vote storage server. Vote storage server actually verifies the signal and whether the vote has been properly formatted. These two are the responsibilities of the vote storage server, and he removes the signature and keeps only the encrypted votes of the voters, and that data has been actually taken into a DVD in the presence of election officials and loaded into the tallying server. So at the tallying server, the votes will be decrypted. Tallying server will be connected to an HSM module where the private key of the election has been stored. So it decrypts all the votes and tallies and gives the results. These results will be taken along with the manual voting results. And one more thing in this Estonia's process is manual vote has got highest precedence, followed by the last vote. So the counting process completes. So the some of the issues people are uh, actually trying to analyze this system to find out a lot of vulnerabilities, and some of the researchers have found there few vulnerabilities in the client-side application, where by including some malware, when he second time, because the vote can be casted multiple times, and he tries to attempt second time, the vote can be manipulated to his requirement, and here manual intervention is possible, where the votes will be carried from storage server to the counting server through a DVD, and here the votes are in pure encrypted form using the public key of the election, which actually goes through the application, like the client application being loaded. People generally gets that information of client application unless it's not security designed. If the client application is not securely designed, attaching it to the ID cards, people can get the public key of that system and generate multiple votes, and key, the DVDs here can be with the votes that in favoring to certain parties. Such kind of vulnerabilities are there. So this is one of the case study where the end-to-end verifiability is not exactly implemented, and there are some manual intervention is possible where.
Sorry for interruption, but I think we have to stick to time also.
So this Professor Furi yesterday covered everything, so I'll be skipping this. So some of the thoughts that I am thinking which can be implemented for the Indian scenario is, as morning we have seen Aadhaar presentation where the database is maintained properly. So for the election voter list and all, instead of separate registration, shall we take Aadhaar database where the date of birth or age is mentioned, and some kind of updatation at regular intervals, develop an application basically to fetch data from Aadhaar, and provide a mechanism for regular updatation of data of individual voters, and make that as a database for the election commission. And since Aadhaar registered devices verifiable systems are going to come, instead of making this internet voting registration based, make it available to all. And if a person votes through internet, we can keep few devices which checks at the manual booths, and basically will not allow him to vote at manual, or some kind of mechanisms work out. And since it's going to be a very big program, ECI can actually design an ecosystem where applications from client side, server side can be developed by huge organizations which are in R&D, and even ECI can insist on some organizations to take a role of being developing or attacking the systems being developed by the other organization to see the vulnerabilities and make the system much more secure, and then start trialing with the small elections and go ahead in a progressive way. Thank you for your attention.
We have just time for two questions, one or two questions if you have. So thank you very much for not posing any question. It saves time for me. Let me go ahead to next speaker, Mr. Dinesh Kamble. He is a senior solution architect from Intel.